Hello to everyone out there. I'm Poetic Heretic, and tonight I have an article for you purporting to tell of incidents where dogmen allegedly attacked people. I want to warn you beforehand that some of what you are about to hear is quite disturbing. So let us begin. Mysterious and Frightening Cases of Dogman Attacks by Brent Swanser. One of the strangest phenomena in the realm of the paranormal and cryptozoology is that of supposed real werewolves, and in particular that of what is known as the Dogman. Much like Bigfoot, these appear as hulking, massive mountains of fur and muscle, yet rather than ape-like, they are described as having decidedly canine features, often with a tail and of alternating between walking on 2 feet or all fours. They have been sighted in a range of locations and serve to really go out into the truly outlandish. Yet for as weird and scary as all of this is, even more frightening are the scattered reports of these spooky entities actually attacking people. One very weird report of an apparent dogman attack of some form comes from the site Beyond Creepy and occurred in the country of Mexico. The person who made the report says that it happened to his uncles as they were driving a cargo truck through a rather remote jungle area at night. As they made their way along the rough and rugged unpaved road, something very large and heavy reportedly jumped into the back of their truck, and the person telling the account says of what happened next. They didn't stop to see what it was because there were no lights on the road. My uncle on the passenger side saw this devilish creature that looked like a dog climbing closer to the cabin of the truck. They said the thing was huge. My uncle screaming in fear when they saw it, and they tried to shake the truck, but it wouldn't fall off until they hit it against a tree on the opposite side of the road/path. They kept driving all night to the morning, all freaked out. When they got to a gas station in a village, they saw gash marks and hand but animal prints on the windows where it was trying to get in and on the back trailer. They told their story to some of the villager or farmers, and they told them that dogmen like demons roam those areas. And they were not the only ones who have been attacked before. They were so freaked out the hair on both arms rises even telling their experience. They said they never drove through Central America besides the cities or villages at night ever again. I wish I could have recorded them telling the stories. They have died already, but even before they died, they stuck with what happened to them, and they never did drugs. The site Phantoms and Monsters has several reports of apparent dogman attacks. One of these supposedly happened on a tract of forested land near the Ohio River in Maysville, Kentucky. The witness was a teen at the time, with a group of other teens just out messing around exploring an abandoned hospital in the area called Hazelwood Hospital. But this night was about to prove to be a bit more eventful than any of them could have imagined. They had split up to go poking around the dusty ruins of the dilapidated hospital, and at some point, the witness became aware of a fetid stench like something rotting as he was exploring the basement of the building, which incidentally had once been used as a morgue. The flooded floor was covered with about 3 inches of water, and as he sloshed through it, he then heard a metal door slam and something run through the water some distance away. The witness thought this was just his friends playing a practical joke on him, so he wasn't scared just yet, but he soon would be. He decided to get up on top of one of the long-abandoned coolers that had once been used for storing dead bodies, hoping to get the jump on his friends and scare them. But as he lay there, he says the darkness was pierced by someone screaming. He still thought that one of his friends was just messing with him, so he stayed still, but soon that smell of rotting meat pervaded the air around him once more, and he could hear footsteps in the water, as well as a sound like panting or a labored breathing and sniffing. At this point, the witness was overcome by a sense of pure dread, jumping down from the cooler to go running towards the exit to the morgue, hearing that panting and the water splashing right behind him, as well as an ominous low growl. In a panic, he slipped into the boiler room and stood as still as possible. As he waited there, something very large and strong allegedly started to slam into the door to the boiler room, and there was a sound like the scratching of claws against the steel. The terrified witness then ran towards the other end of the boiler room in a bid to reach the access to the generator and the dock doors trucks used to unload and the hillside that led to the woods. And he says of what happened next. I opened the door to the dock room, and when I looked back, I saw the arm of this creature sticking through the opening it had made, and it was like a horror movie. It was a gray and brown mass of fur. It looked like a human arm, but it didn't because the hand was all wrong. The hand had 5 digits, but the claws would have made a bear run in fear. I slammed the door behind me and ran for the dock doors. The dock doors wouldn't budge, and I could hear the gurneys overturning and the lockers sliding on the floor. It was getting through, and the only thing between me and it now was a single door. I ran to one of the windows by the dock doors and proceeded to bust it out, which mangled my hand from the glass. Then, as I was pulling myself through the window, I heard the door get slammed into, and one of the hinges completely flew off the door and hit the wall. I tumbled out of the window and hit the cold, wet ground. When I stood up, I saw it in the doorway. Now, I'm 6'4" and 250 pounds, not little by any means, and this thing took up the entire doorway, an 8-foot tall, 3-foot wide door. It was covered head to toe in a gray-brown fur. It had a very narrow snout, almost like a Doberman pinscher, and its ears were just barely visible because of the doorway. But I could tell they were pointing up, just like a dog. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was completely paralyzed. This thing was staring right into my soul. Then it snarled, and that woke me from my disbelief of what I was seeing. I turned and ran. I ran up the hill into the woods to get around the hospital, to get back to the street where the car was parked. I hadn't made it 25 feet when I heard it clawing to get out of the window. I knew I would never make it to the car this way. So I ran back towards the hospital where the fire escape ladder was. I had used the ladder before to climb to the roof to take pictures of the entire town. I completely skipped the first 3 rungs on the ladder and was now inside the enclosed part of the fire escape. Again, this thing howled, and I could feel waves of pure terror filling my body. My hand was killing me at this point, and I was getting blood on everything. Just as I was reaching the first floor window I could climb into, this thing slammed into the fire escape ladder, knocking me down a couple rungs. It leaped onto the outside of the fire escape and began clawing at my feet. Just as I reached the window, I felt it. Pain like nothing I've ever felt. It had grabbed just above my ankle and yanked, and in doing so shredded my boot, the end of my jeans, and into my flesh. I was able to pull myself into the first floor window, and I heard it push itself off the fire escape and head back the way it came. I'm now dragging my left leg and trying to keep my right hand in my hoodie pocket. The entrance we came in from is only about 150 feet away down the main hall and around a left turn. As I'm halfway down the hall, I hear the steel doors slamming again. I'm dragging myself down the hall, just trying to stay focused on getting out of this hellhole. Then the howling starts again, and I can hear it getting closer. I make the turn and hear the pounding coming up the stairs from the basement. I make it to the entrance and hear the padding of hands and feet on the floor. I made the mistake of looking back just as it rounded the corner, and it was running on all 4s like a real dog. I bolted down the hill towards the street where the car was parked and realized the car was gone. They left me. My only way of escape was gone. He claims that he careened off into the night, running down the hill to start banging on the door of the first house he came to. Luckily for him, an elderly lady let him in, and seeing the state he was in, called the police. When the authorities arrived, he told them his wild tale, but they did not believe him, despite the fact that he had injuries to corroborate his story. The witness says, "When the cops got there and asked me what happened, I told them the same thing I've said here. Of course, they didn't believe me and thought I was on drugs. The EMTs took me to the hospital, and when they did blood work and found no substance in my system, they then concluded I was attacked by a wild dog. I ended up with 36 stitches in my leg and 17 in my hand. I had to get rabies shots and tell the local wildlife officer my story. He informed me that they had reports of wild dog packs running around the outside of town, ransacking garbage cans and killing some of the local pets. I informed him that it wasn't a pack of wild dogs and it was a giant dogman, but they all just thought I was crazy. The only thing I had in my favor was the claw mark on my leg. Even the doctors were confused about how a wild dog could make a mark like that." It is hard to know what to make of this case. It is so dramatic and spectacular that it has the feel of a movie script or a creepypasta, but who knows? Perhaps just as sensational is another report from Phantoms and Monsters, this one supposedly from back in 1977 in a rural farming community in the U.S. state of West Virginia. The witness was apparently just a boy at the time and claimed that his grandfather often spoke about large, quote-unquote, strange animals roaming about the property, with the old man taking to constantly keeping a gun with him at all times. The grandfather also told the boy to always lock his window at night and to be careful when walking around outside at night. One evening, the boy heard something outside his window as his grandfather fell asleep in the living room with his gun on his lap, and the boy said he could hear a low growling from out past the window, but he couldn't see anything. The report says of what happened next. The witness looked and saw nothing in the window. He then went to get some candy from a bowl in the living room, and that's when he observed a claw coming in through the window, palm facing down, as if it was going to push the window up. The witness clearly saw 3 fingers. The middle finger was the longest. Years later, he claimed the fingers reminded him of the claws of the creature in Krampus, specifically the scene where he pointed his finger into the woman's face. He screamed in fright, which woke up the grandfather. The creature also screamed. The grandfather went into fight mode and proceeded to hit the creature's fingers with his gun. The witness grabbed a knife from nearby and also stabbed at the fingers. At that moment, the grandmother rushed into the room and turned on the outside light, which lit up the yard. The witness could see the creature clearly standing in the window. He even looked into its eyes. The creature took off running just as the grandfather raised his gun to shoot it. According to the witness, the creature appeared to be angry and was growling as it ran. The witness acknowledged that he had wet himself during the exchange. At some point, the grandmother stated that the creature had returned. "It's back," she said, which surprised the witness. They proceeded to tell him that the creature had been seen around the property 3 years earlier but had left. They assumed it had been killed. It had only started appearing again some 2 weeks earlier. This upset the witness, as he had been playing on the property and should have been alerted to it. The grandparents told him that in 1974, the grandfather was in a deer stand bow hunting when a strange creature attempted to climb the tree and enter the stand through a door latch. The grandfather shot at it and stabbed at it, but it never stopped coming. Eventually, it attempted to poke its nose through the opening in the stand. That's when the grandfather stabbed it in the nose. It managed to get a paw through and slashed the leg of the grandfather. The creature fled after that. The scar was visible on the nose of the creature standing at the window. As well, the grandfather also had his scar on his leg. The grandfather claimed he waited in the stand for 3 hours before feeling safe enough to climb down and leave. They had never heard of a dogman at the time, so they just referred to it as werewolf. According to this report, over the coming weeks there would be found dead farm animals on the property, apparently having been mauled by something very large and fierce. One day, when the grandfather failed to show up to pick him up from school, he walked home to find the old man dead in his truck, mauled in a similar fashion as the farm animals. Supposedly, the police would come to the conclusion that the man had died from an attack, quote-unquote, by an unknown animal. What is going on here? Did any of this really happen at all? It is hard to say. Another report is tied to the apparent mauling of a 13-year-old boy in Knott County, Kentucky. Apparently, the boy had been playing in his yard when his relatives saw him get attacked by a quote-unquote canine-type creature and dragged off into the woods. The police were called and arrived to find the boy dead, his body located 400 feet up a mountain through treacherous, rain-slicked terrain. The body had been mauled by a large animal of some sort, but interestingly, the coroner would conclude that it was not a mountain lion or bear, but rather something canine. Could a dog have possibly killed this boy and dragged his 100-pound body all the way up there through thick forest terrain? Authorities have apparently still not come to a firm conclusion on what actually attacked this kid. And dogman or not, it is a rather eerie mystery. We are left with some bizarre cases orbiting an already bizarre phenomenon. Are any of these reports, or indeed any of the dogman in general, real in any sense? If so, then what could this possibly be? Is it a flesh and blood creature, a supernatural phenomenon, or perhaps even interdimensional interlopers? Or is this all just spooky werewolf-type stories and urban legends to tell around the campfire? It is hard to say, but the dogman phenomenon has definitely not gone away, and it doesn't appear that it will anytime soon. So that is the article, dear viewers. So, a couple of things to say about this. I have been looking into the Dogman phenomenon off and on for a good number of years now, probably close to 10 years now. And it used to be the case that all you ever seemed to hear when it came to the idea of Dogman attacking people was that they never really attack people, as far as we know, except for one or two reports. But then, as the years went on, and I started looking into some more modern eyewitness reports, I guess you could say, there started to be claims of incidents that could only be described as attacks by Dogman, both attacks on animals as well as humans, though the details of these attacks escape me for the most part at this moment. So while the stories in this article do generally have that sort of fantastic, too wild to be true sound to them, on the other hand, I almost wouldn't be surprised if there was a hint of truth to this idea that Dogman can be aggressive, and, well, the fact that it exists in the first place, because those who know me well know that for as much as I enjoy the paranormal, I'm skeptical of probably 90 to 95% of it. I'm quite skeptical of much of the paranormal. Dogman, however, crazy as it sounds, because of all the different things I've heard over the years and all the different eyewitness testimony and the kind of fear that you can hear in people's voices and conviction that just can't be made up, or at least all of these people cannot be this great of actors, I guess. All of that put together over the years, plus some personal experiences that I've had with people that I know, Dogman is one of the few paranormal phenomena that I pretty much completely believe in. I acknowledge that I could be wrong, but while I'm skeptical of most paranormal phenomena, I am not skeptical, not anymore anyway, of Dogman. That should tell you something. I'm Poetic Heretic. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you next time.